Peppa Pig at the zoo. Madame Gazelle is taking Peppa and her friends to the zoo for the day. Remember, children, today we will be meeting wild animals, she says. Ooh, cry the children. Don't worry, says Madame Gazelle. The wild animals will be safely behind fences. Roar! Ah! A lion has escaped! Cries Madame Gazelle. Hello, I'm Mr. Lion, the zookeeper. You've picked a good time to visit, says Mr. Lion. It's feeding time. Wow. Which animals live here? Asked Susie Sheep. They move very slowly and live to be very old, says Madame Gazelle. Not all animals eat vegetables, says Madame Gazelle. That's right, Madame Gazelle, says Mr. Lion, grinning. Yes, well, says Madame Gazelle, who lives here? Hello, says Mrs. Crocodile. I'm the keeper in charge of this part of the zoo. Penguins, they eat fish. Ah, a crocodile, cries Madame Gazelle. Look, there's my daddy. He's a keeper at the zoo too, cries Gerald Giraffe. Hello, says Mr. Giraffe. Can you guess what animals I look after? They fly and get all their food from flowers. What are they? asked Peppa. Look carefully at the flowers, says Mr. Giraffe. Flutter, flutter, flutter. Ooh, pretty butterflies, say the children. Thank you for showing us around the zoo, says Madame Gazelle. Hooray! All this talk about food has made me hungry. Me too, laughs Mr. Lion. It's our feeding time now. What's for lunch today, Mr. Lion? Asked Mrs. Crocodile. Can you guess? Roars Mr. Lion. Little picnics in boxes. Yummy! Says Peppa. The end. Peppa Pig Bicycle Race. It is a lovely sunny day. Peppa and George are going out for a ride. Peppa rings her bell. Ding, ding. Come on, George, she says. Follow me. Peppa is riding her bicycle. George is riding his tricycle. Hurry up, George, calls Peppa. You're going so slowly, says George. Peppa sees her friends, Danny Dog, Susie Sheep, and Rebecca Rabbit. They are riding their bicycles too. Danny points down the hill. Let's have a race to the bottom, he says. Danny, Susie, and Rebecca ride very fast. Peppa rides quite fast. George does not ride very fast at all. George is riding a baby bike, snorts Peppa. So are you, says Danny. You've still got stabilizers. Peppa looks down at her bike. It is the only one with stabilizers on it. Let's ride up the hill again, says Danny. No, says Peppa. I think I'll stay here. Peppa asks Daddy Pig to take her stabilizers off. Do you think you can ride without them? He says. I can do it, Peppa nods. I can. She gets on her bicycle and starts pedaling. Uh-oh, Peppa falls onto the grass. Riding without stabilizers is hard. George giggles. It is not funny. Peppa frowns. Daddy Pig helps Peppa to get back on her bicycle. Let's try again, he says. Ready, steady, go. Don't let go of me, Daddy, says Peppa. Don't worry, says Daddy Pig. I've got you. Peppa pedals faster and faster. You're doing really well, shouts Daddy Pig. Peppa looks round. Daddy Pig has let go. Ho ho, he cries. You're cycling on your own. Peppa can ride on her own without stabilizers.
Wow!
She goes to find her friends. Look at me, shouts Peppa. I can ride my bike properly. Danny, Susie and Rebecca all cheer. Hooray!
Hooray!
Come on, says Peppa. Let's race down the hill again. Danny, Susie and Rebecca ring their bells. Peppa loves riding her bicycle. Everyone loves riding bicycles. The end. Peppa Pig, A Trip to the Moon. It is a lovely sunny day, and George and his friend Edmund are playing with their space toys in the garden. Oh dear, Edmund's space toy has landed on Peppa's head. She is not happy. Are you going to the moon, boys? Says Daddy Pig. Moon, says George. It's just boring space stuff for babies, Daddy, says Peppa. It's not real. Space is real, Peppa, replies Daddy Pig. Mummy Pig tells everyone there is a show at the museum that is all about the moon.
Wow!
That sounds fun. Shall we go and see it? Asks Daddy Pig.
Hooray!
George and Edmund laugh. They want to see the show. At the museum, they all buy tickets. Are we really going to the moon? Peppa asks. No, Peppa, it's just pretend, Miss Rabbit tells her. Mr. Rabbit is a tour guide. This way for our trip to the moon, he calls, leading them inside. Prepare for takeoff. When they are all seated in the rocket, a voice booms, Blast off! We live on a planet. Does anyone know what it's called? Mr. Rabbit asks. Earth, Daddy Pig guesses. That's right, Mr. Rabbit smiles. And what is the moon made of? Mr. Rabbit wants to know next. The moon is made of cheese, of course, Daddy Pig jokes. But Mr. Rabbit doesn't find it very funny. No, the moon is made of rock. This is a serious tour, so no jokes, please. It is pretend, though, isn't it? Peppa asks. Yes, Peppa. If it was the real moon, you could jump over my head, Mr. Rabbit tells her. Gravity is what keeps us on the ground, and it is weaker on the moon, so you can jump higher.
Wow!
Some big rubber bands drop down and Mr. Rabbit straps everyone in. Peppa and the others feel like they are jumping on the moon. It is so much fun. Miss Rabbit tells them to say, Moon cheese, as she takes a picture. It is the end of the tour, so Miss Rabbit takes everyone to the moon shop. How about some real moon cheese? says Miss Rabbit. How much is it? asked Daddy Pig. £5, please, says Miss Rabbit. £5? snorts Daddy Pig. It's all for a good cause, says Miss Rabbit. I like the moon now because it is very interesting, says Peppa, holding a picture of everybody bouncing on the moon. And very tasty, laughs Daddy Pig, eating his yummy moon cheese. The end. Peppa Pig, Delphine Donkey. This is Peppa's friend, Delphine Donkey.
Hooray!
Delphine lives in France.
Wow!
Peppa speaks English. Delphine speaks French. Hello, says Peppa. Bonjour, says Delphine. Delphine lives in a city called Paris. Peppa and her family like to go and visit. Sometimes we travel on a train, says Peppa. And sometimes we travel on a boat. Peppa and Delphine love exploring Paris together. They go to parks, jump in puddles and visit cafes.
Wow.
Would you like a croissant? asked Delphine. Says Peppa. Yes, please. In the holidays, Delphine comes to stay at Peppa's house. They sleep at each end of Peppa's bunk bed. I like sharing with you, says Delphine. Peppa has lots of fun with her friend Delphine. They don't see each other very often. But that makes it extra special when they do.
Hooray!
Peppa loves Delphine Donkey. Everyone loves Delphine Donkey. First words with Peppa Pig. Dens. Peppa's many friends came to play in her treehouse. The treehouse is yellow and its door is green. Grandpa Pig made the treehouse for us. It is the best, said Peppa. Peppa made tea for her 5 friends in the treehouse. Don't forget me, said Zoe Zebra. Don't be sad. I have made you some tea in the green cup, said Peppa. Danny Dog and Pedro Pony came to call at the treehouse. Is there room for us in your treehouse? said Danny Dog. I don't think you will fit. There are 5 friends in here. There are too many friends in here, said Peppa. Grandpa Pig made a den for Danny and Pedro. I like its flag. It is the best, said Pedro Pony. If you pull this bit, its red door goes up and down, said Grandpa Pig. It has so many good bits. It is the best, said Danny Dog. Thank you. Peppa and her friends came to call at the den. Its red door was pulled down.
Wow!
Is there room for us in the den? said Peppa. I don't think you will fit. There are too many friends in here, said Danny. Grandpa Pig got some string. If you pull the string from the treehouse to the den, you can call your friends, said Grandpa Pig. The friends pulled the string. The treehouse Grandpa Pig made for us is the best. Its door is green, called Susie Sheep. The den that Grandpa Pig made for us is the best. Its door goes up and down if you pull it, called Danny Dog. Peppa's 5 friends went to the den. The den is the best as the door goes up and down, they said. I don't think so. I still think the tree house is the best. Its door is green, said Peppa. Then the rain came. The den did not have a roof. Many of the friends went back to the treehouse. The treehouse is the best as its roof will keep the rain off, they said. I don't think so. I still think the den is the best, said Danny Dog. Then the sun came back. The rain had made 5 spots of mud on the green grass. Now we don't want to go in the den or the tree house, said Susie Sheep. The mud is best for us. The end. Peppa Pig International Day. Peppa and her friends are at playgroup. They are dressed up in costumes from lots of different countries. Today is International Day, when we celebrate all the countries of the world, says Madame Gazelle. I'm dressed as Australia, says Wendy Wolf. I'm Japan, says Zoe Zebra. And Richard is Spain. I'm the United Kingdom, says Freddy Fox. I'm America, says Pedro Pony. I'm Switzerland, says Candy Cat. Meow. I'm France, says Peppa. And George is Russia. What do all the countries of the world do? Asked Rebecca Rabbit. They sing the Song of Harmony together, says Madame Gazelle. Wow. Later we will sing it for your parents. Hooray! Hooray! Everyone shouts. The children like singing. Now it is playtime. All the countries are playing in the playground. Play nicely together, calls Madame Gazelle. France and Switzerland are having a lovely time on the swing. Laugh Peppa and Candy. The other countries are having fun too. Hooray! Australia and the United Kingdom are on the slide. Japan and South Africa are on the roundabout. Germany and Spain are playing hopscotch. Wow! Holland and Mexico are playing with the tire swing. Russia, Greece, Spain and America are playing together in the sandpit. I'm building a big sand castle, says America. Yee-haw! The sandpit is just the right size for 4 countries to play in. Can we play in the sandpit now? Asks Japan. We can't all fit in, says America. You can play on the side, says Holland. But we want to play here, says America. Russia, Greece and Spain are upset. Hello, 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 cries the United Kingdom. What's all this noise about then? Everyone tries to explain. France thinks that Holland is being a bit bossy. Holland thinks it's Russia's fault. Leave George alone, he's only little, cries France. Oh dear, the countries of the world are not playing nicely together. That is enough! Is this how you think the countries of the world behave? Demands Madame Gazelle. Don't they? asked Franz. Of course not, says Madame Gazelle. All the parents have arrived. How is International Day going? asked Mummy Rabbit. Not too bad, says Madame Gazelle. We will now sing for you. Madame Gazelle plays her guitar as all the children sing this song of harmony. Peace and harmony in all the world. Peace and harmony in all the world. Peace and harmony in all the world. Peace and harmony. Peppa and her friends love singing together in harmony. All the countries of the world love singing together in harmony. The end. Peppa Pig, George and the Dinosaur.
Dinosaur! Roar!
Shouted George. George and his friends, Richard Rabbit and Edmund Elephant, loved dinosaurs. Wherever they went, they were always searching for fossils, stones and bones. In the sandpit, at the playground, and even in Grandpa Pig's garden. One day, when Richard and Edmund came to play, Mammy Pig had a special surprise. We're going on a fossil hunting adventure at the beach, she said, with Miss Rabbit the fossil hunter. Are fossils always dinosaurs, Mammy? asked Peppa. They can also be the remains of plants or animals from a long, long time ago, explained Mammy Pig. The children put on their fossil hunting clothes and packed their bags with special tools and fact books. Ready to go exploring? Mammy Pig asked. Yes, cheered Peppa, George and George's friends, jumping up and down.
Hooray!
The brave explorers set off to meet Miss Rabbit at the beach. The tide was high last night, said Miss Rabbit when they arrived. Hopefully there'll be lots of wonderful things whipped up by the waves for us to discover. Yippee! Cheered the children. But if not, you can always buy fossils from my shop at the end, Miss Rabbit continued. There's an offer on today, 2 for the price of 1. Miss Rabbit took out her fossil collection to show the children. This swirly rock is an ammonite, she said. And these shiny rocks are called fool's gold. Miss Rabbit held up some little rocks with gold bits in them. Ooh, gold, gasped Peppa. I love hunting for treasure. Unfortunately, it's not real gold, Peppa, explained Miss Rabbit, but it's lovely and shiny. This one's a belemnite, said Edmund, looking at Miss Rabbit's fossils. It's an extinct mollusk, and I believe that one is a fossilized poo. Eh, poo! Snorted the other children. Don't worry, said Edmund. The poo is millions of years old. Edmund Elephant was very clever. Wow, said Miss Rabbit. You really know your stuff, Edmund. George pulled out a dinosaur book from his bag. Dinosaur! Wow! He asked, showing Miss Rabbit a picture of a dinosaur. No one has ever found a complete dinosaur skeleton on this beach, I'm afraid, George, said Miss Rabbit. But you might find some little fossils like the ones in my collection. Then Miss Rabbit turned to them all and said, Now, shall we get started? Peppa walked along the beach, looking at the ground, but she soon gave up. I can't see anything, Mammy, she said. Just lots and lots of sand and stones. I'm going to build a sandcastle instead. Meanwhile, George, Edmund and Richard explored the beach together. They took their fossil hunting mission very seriously. After Peppa had finished her sandcastle, she peered over at George. Look, Mummy, she called. George has found something. Mammy Pig and Miss Rabbit looked over at George. Their mouths dropped open. The explorers pointed to a huge rock further down the beach.
"Oh dear, Mummy Pig," sighed Miss Rabbit. "It looks like you're bringing the whole beach home with you." "Hello, George," said Mummy Pig. "What do we have here then?"
Dinosaur.
said George, holding his arms out on as wide as he could go.
Big dinosaur. We believe this rock contains a complete skeleton of a dinosaur,
Explained Edmund.
George found footprints in the rocks near it, which are a clear sign. Can you help us crack it open, please?
"Are you sure it's not just a big rock?" Mummy Pig asked. But then Miss Rabbit took a closer look at it and pulled out her phone. "Yes, that's right. Very big," she said into her phone. "Please come immediately." Soon after, Mr. Rabbit arrived in a big truck with a team of helpers. Very carefully, they lifted the rock onto the truck. "We'll meet you at the museum," Mr. Rabbit called out as they drove off. At the museum, everyone watched excitedly as Mr. Rabbit and his team cracked open the rock. Everyone gasped. Mr. Rabbit was the first to speak. "What we have here is a complete skeleton of a—"
Dinosaur.
interrupted George. "That is correct. It is a dinosaur. In fact, it is a triceratops," confirmed Mr. Rabbit. "George, you are an expert fossil hunter, aren't you? This is an amazing dinosaur discovery." "Wow!" everyone cried, looking at the skeleton. Even Peppa was impressed. "Now," said Mr. Rabbit, "what shall we call this incredible dinosaur?"
George saw us the first,
cried Peppa.
because George saw the dinosaur first.
"Roar!" cheered George. Everyone laughed. "In this case, I officially name this dinosaur the Georgeosaurceratops Roar," announced Mr. Rabbit. "A big dinosaur like this needs a big name like that." Everyone loves fossil hunting and dinosaurs, especially George, the dinosaur expert. The end.
Peppa Pig, George's new dinosaur. George's favourite toy is Mr. Dinosaur. George likes bouncing Mr. Dinosaur in the garden, playing with him at bath time, and he loves going to sleep with Mr. Dinosaur beside him. At bedtime, Peppa says, "George, I think Mr. Dinosaur is broken." George is very upset. Mummy and Daddy Pig come in to see why George is crying. Cries George. "Poor George," says Daddy Pig. "Maybe it's time we got you a new dinosaur." The next day, Peppa, George, Mammy and Daddy Pig visit Mr. Fox's shop. "I'm sure we'll find a lovely dinosaur here, George," says Mammy Pig. "Look, George," says Daddy Pig, pointing to the shop window. "There's a big one,"
Oh, dinosaur.
says George. "Good morning," beams Mr. Fox. "Can I help you?" "We'd like to buy the dinosaur in the window, please," says Daddy Pig. "Good choice," says Mr. Fox. "This is Dino Raw. He walks, he talks, and he sings." "Wow!" says everyone.
Dino roar.
Says George excitedly. We'll take it, says Daddy Pig. George is playing with Dino Roar in the garden. Dino Roar sings, Dino Roar, listen to Dino Roar, roar! Careful, George, says Daddy Pig. Don't play too roughly because Dino Roar will get broken. George wants to play with Dino Roar in the bath.
Dino Roar,
says George. But Mummy Pig says, George, if you get Dino Roar wet, he'll stop working. Peppa and George are asleep in bed, but suddenly Dino Roar comes to life. Roar! Dino Roar! Dino Roar! George, says Peppa, Dino Roar has woken me up. Maybe Dino Roar should sleep somewhere else, says Daddy Pig, taking Dino Roar away. George is feeling sad. He cannot play with Dino Roar in the garden, or the bath, or even in bed. Never mind, George, says Mummy Pig brightly. Dino Roar can still roar. Dino Roar, listen to Dino Roar. Dino Roar stops walking and talking completely. I think the batteries must have run out, says Mummy Pig. Already? How many are there? Grumbles Daddy Pig as batteries pour out of Dino Roar.
hundreds and thousands,
cries Peppa as she picks him up. Peppa spots something green under a bush. What's this? Says Peppa. Is it a trumpet? You found Mr. Dinosaur's tail, says Mummy Pig. Now Daddy Pig can mend him. He might be a bit difficult to mend, says Daddy Pig doubtfully. But the tail slips perfectly into place. Daddy Pig has mended Mr. Dinosaur. Ho, 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 chuckles Daddy Pig. Hello, Mr. Dinosaur, says Peppa. Arr, replies George. Everybody laughs. Mr. Dinosaur is George's favourite toy in the whole world. The end. Peppa Pig, Doctors. It is playtime. Peppa and Pedro Pony are playing in the garden when they hear a squeak from up in a tree. What's that noise? Asks Pedro. He looks up and gasps. It's Tiddles the tortoise. Don't worry, Tiddles. We can get you down. I'll just shake this tree and... Whoosh! Tiddles falls from the tree and bumps Pedro's nose on the way down. Ouch! Shouts Pedro. Madame Gazelle comes to help. Oh dear, what happened? She asks. Tiddles fell on Pedro's nose, says Peppa. Madame Gazelle calls the doctor. Dr. Brown Bear hurries over. Where is the patient? He asks. My nose hurts, says Pedro. Dr. Brown Bear gives Pedro a green plaster for his nose. That will make it better, says Dr. Brown Bear.
Hooray!
My glasses fell in the mud, says Pedro. You'll need an optician to fix them, says Dr. Brown Bear. The optician arrives. It is Dr. Pony. He is Pedro's daddy. Can you please read this chart for me, Pedro? Says Dr. Pony. I can't see. My glasses aren't working, says Pedro. Dr. Pony spots the problem. These glasses just need a good clean, says Dr. Pony. He carefully wipes away the mud and gives the clean glasses back to Pedro. I can see again, says Pedro.
Hooray!
Thank you, doctors. Everything is back to normal, says Madame Gazelle. But Tiddles needs helping too, cries Peppa. Can you doctors help a tortoise in trouble? asks Madame Gazelle. I'm afraid not, but we know someone who can, replies Dr. Pony. I'll call them now. Dr. Hamster the vet arrives. Tiddles fell out of the tree, Pedro tells Dr. Hamster. Tiddles, you little pickle, says Dr. Hamster. She flips him over so he can stand up again. All of a sudden, Dr. Elephant the dentist appears. Hello, I heard there was an emergency. Are everyone's teeth okay? He asks. Yes, thank you, everyone answers. Dr. Elephant sets off on his way. My car won't start, cries Dr. Elephant. None of the doctors know what to do. I know who to call, says Madame Gazelle. Grandad Dog's breakdown service. Grandad Dog arrives. He opens up the car bonnet and has a look. Right, now try the engine, he says. Dr. Elephant's car has been fixed.
Hooray!
Grandad Dog is a car doctor, cheers Peppa. There are doctors for everything, even cars. Everyone loves doctors. The end. Peppa Pig, the Museum. Peppa and her family are visiting the museum. Museums are full of interesting things that are very old, says Daddy Pig. Older than you? asks Peppa. Daddy Pig chuckles. Yes, even older than me, he says. Peppa and George want to know what's inside. One room is full of things that belonged to kings and queens long ago, says Mummy Pig. And another room has a real dinosaur, says Daddy Pig.
Wow!
Now George is excited. Inside the museum, they meet Miss Rabbit at the ticket booth. Mummy Pig asks Miss Rabbit for 4 tickets. George wiggles Mr. Dinosaur. Dinosaur, he cries. And 1 dinosaur, says Miss Rabbit. Mummy Pig spots something very shiny. Look, Peppa, this is a queen's golden crown, says Mummy Pig. Wow, says Peppa. If I were a queen, I would eat as much cake as I wanted, says Peppa. She would be Queen Peppa with a sparkly dress and a crown with jewels and a big slice of chocolate cake. Peppa pretends she's a queen sitting on a throne. Daddy Pig, Mummy Pig and George all bow to Queen Peppa. Is there anything else you would care for, Your Royal Highness? asks Mummy Pig. More cake, please, replies Peppa. It's lots of fun pretending. Next, they all go to the dinosaur room.
Hooray!
I can't see a dinosaur, says Peppa. It must be very small. Daddy Pig explains that the dinosaur is very big. Peppa and George look up to find a huge skeleton.
Wow!
These are the bones of a real dinosaur, says Daddy Pig. George shakes Mr. Dinosaur at the skeleton and growls as loud as he can. Dinosaur, shouts George. George pretends to be a big dinosaur. He's a Georgosaurus. Roar! Shouts George.
Help, it's a dinosaur!
Peppa laughs. It's fun to pretend. After looking around the museum, Mammy Pig, Daddy Pig, Peppa and George go to the cafe. The dinosaur room was George's favourite room. Peppa loved the King's and Queen's room. It looks like Daddy Pig is in his favourite room, says Mummy Pig. The room with the cakes in it. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa meets the Queen. Peppa and her family are watching television. Suddenly, there is a special announcement from the Queen.
The Queen, the Queen!
Peppa cheers. Hello to you all, the Queen says. Today I have decided to give an award to the hardest working person in the country.
Wow.
The hardest working person in the country is Miss Rabbit. At the supermarket, Miss Rabbit is closing the shop when Mr. Zebra the postman presents her with a golden letter. Miss Rabbit, please come to my palace to get a medal for all your hard work. Bring friends, all the best, the Queen. I can't visit the Queen, I've got too much work to do, Miss Rabbit panics. Don't worry, Peppa says. The Queen has made it a holiday. It is the day Miss Rabbit visits the Queen. Peppa and her friends are going to. We're off to see the Queen, we're off to see the Queen. E-I-A-D-O, we're off to see the Queen. Here we are, Miss Rabbit squeaks.
Wow.
Look at all the fancy stuff. Woof, Danny Dog says. Don't touch anything, Miss Rabbit warns. Where is the Queen? Emily Elephant asks. Queen! Susie Sheep calls. Where are you? In another fancy room, there is a lady sitting on a throne knitting. Hello, Peppa says. Have you seen the Queen today? I am the Queen, the lady says. The children are very excited to meet you, Your Majesty, says Miss Rabbit. I'm excited to meet all of you, the Queen says, standing up. And now for Miss Rabbit's medal.
Wow.
This is the Queen's award for industry. Keep up the good work. The Queen puts a shiny gold medal over Miss Rabbit's head. Cheers for Miss Rabbit, the Queen says. Hip hip, hooray, shout the children. Miss Rabbit and the children wear their boots to go out into the palace gardens with the Queen. Do you play in your garden all the time, Your Majesty? Danny Dog asks. I don't have time for playing, no, answers the Queen. She suddenly stops. Oh dear, a muddy puddle. Never mind, we can walk around it. You can't walk around a muddy puddle, Peppa says. You have to jump in it. Peppa shows the Queen how to jump up and down in a muddy puddle. I say, that does look fun, the Queen says. Here one goes then. Stop! Shouts Peppa. Everyone gasps. If you jump in muddy puddles, Peppa says, you must wear your boots, Your Majesty. Queen goes inside and comes back with her boots on. Everyone loves jumping up and down in muddy puddles, including the Queen. The end. Peppa Pig, Grumpy Rabbit's hovercraft. Grandpa Pig is taking Peppa and George out for the first time on his sailing boat. "Hello, old bean," says Mr. Stallion.
Grandpa, that man just called you an old bean,
cries Peppa.
It's another way of saying old friend,
says Grandpa Pig.
Now, where did I leave my boat?
says Grandpa Pig.
What does your boat look like, Grandpa?
asks Peppa.
It has a little red flag on top of the mast,
says Grandpa Pig.
Like that little flag?
asks Peppa. Oh dear, Grandpa Pig's sailing boat has sunk.
Oh no!
Grampy Rabbit zooms past the boat.
What is that monstrosity?
asks Mr. Stallion.
Is it allowed in the sailing club?
asks Mrs. Corgi. Grampy Rabbit reaches Peppa and George.
Hello!
shouts Grampy Rabbit.
What a marvellous day for sailing.
Hello, Grampy Rabbit,
says Peppa.
Grandpa Pig, you look sad,
says Grampy Rabbit.
What's the matter?
We can't go sailing because our boat has sunk,
says Peppa.
Why don't you hop onto my hovercraft?
suggests Grampy Rabbit.
You can't drive that thing around here,
says Grandpa Pig.
You're not a member of the sailing club.
Well, you're a member, aren't you?
replies Grampy Rabbit.
So I'm sure it will be perfectly fine.
Hooray!
Peppa, George and Grandpa Pig board Grampy Rabbit's hovercraft.
Hold on to your hats,
shouts Grampy Rabbit as they zoom across the sea. Grampy Rabbit's hovercraft can go on land and water.
Wow!
Mr. Stallion and Mrs. Corgi are enjoying a peaceful day's sailing.
Oh, what is that horrible noise?
cries Mrs. Corgi.
It's that monstrosity again,
says Mr. Stallion.
Whoopee! Ha ha!
says Grampy Rabbit. Grampy Rabbit stops off at the Sailing Club Cafe to get some juice.
This is the life, eh?
says Grampy Rabbit.
The sea and the sky and the boat sailing by.
Wow!
But the boats are not sailing by, Grampy Rabbit,
says Peppa.
There's no wind,
says Grandpa Pig.
Without wind, sailing boats can't sail.
Suddenly, they hear voices calling for help.
It's Mr. Stallion and Mrs. Corgi. We need to rescue them, Grampy Rabbit,
says Peppa. Grampy Rabbit zooms towards the shouting.
Ahoy there!
He calls.
We can't get back to the dock without the wind,
says Mrs. Corgi.
Toss me a line and I'll tow you back in,
says Grampy Rabbit. Grampy Rabbit's hovercraft tows the sailing boats back to shore.
We're towing the boats to shore, we're towing the boats to shore,
sings Grampy Rabbit. We're towing the boats to the car park, towing the boats to Bee Park, sings Grampy Rabbit. Now you don't have to go so far to walk your cars. But sailing boats don't go on land like hovercrafts, gasps Grandpa Pig. Grandpa Pig, who is your friend? Asked Mr. Stallion. We must thank him for rescuing us. His name is Grampy Rabbit, replies Grandpa Pig. Grandpa Rabbit, delighted to meet you, old bean, says Mr. Stallion. You too, old bean, replies Grampy Rabbit. The end. Peppa goes swimming. It's a lovely sunny day, and Peppa and her family are at the swimming pool. Peppa, George, let Daddy put on your armbands, snorts Mummy Pig. Today is George's first time at the pool, and he's a bit scared of getting in. Why don't you just put one foot in the water, suggests Daddy Pig. Maybe George should try both feet at the same time, says Mummy Pig. Splash! Mummy Pig convinces George to jump into the water, and he loves it. Shouts George happily. Ho ho! Well done, George, snorts Daddy Pig. Rebecca Rabbit, her brother Richard, and their mother arrive at the pool too.
Hello, everyone.
Cries Rebecca.
Squeak, squeak,
Says Richard.
Richard, hold on to this float so you can practice kicking your legs,
Says Miss Rabbit.
George, would you like to try kicking your legs too?
Asks Mummy Pig. Giggles George. Ho ho! Very good, laughs Daddy Pig. But please try not to splash.
Big children don't splash,
Asks Peppa.
Big children are very good at swimming,
Declares Peppa.
When George and Richard are older, they will be able to swim like us, won't they, Rebecca?
Yes, says Rebecca, as she watches the boys kick and splash. Peppa and Rebecca race each other up and down the pool with their swimming armbands on. They are having lots of fun swimming and splashing in the water. Oops! Richard has dropped his toy watering can into the pool.
Mommy, ma!
Cries Richard.
Sorry, Richard, I can't reach it. It's too far down,
Says Miss Rabbit. Luckily, Daddy Pig is an excellent swimmer. He takes off his glasses and dives down to get it. Ho, ho. There you go, snorts Daddy Pig. Says Richard. Well done, Daddy, says Mummy Pig.
Yes, thank you, Daddy Pig,
says Miss Rabbit. Oh dear, Richard is so happy to have his watering can back that he splashes Daddy Pig with water. George laughs. What a silly little piggy and rabbit. Everyone has had a fun day at the swimming pool. The end. Peppa Pig. Peppa goes on holiday. Peppa and her family are going on holiday. Mummy Pig is packing their bags. Are you sure we need all that stuff, Mummy Pig? Daddy Pig asks. Yes, replies Mummy Pig. It is all very important. Mr. Bull takes Peppa, George, Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig to the airport in his taxi. Miss Rabbit checks in their bags. Then it's time to board the plane.
Airplane, meow,
Cries George. Off they fly, higher and higher through the clouds. Before long, their pilot, Captain Emergency, makes an announcement.
We are about to land in Italy.
Miss Rabbit, who is also the air stewardess, says, Please fasten your seatbelt. At the airport in Italy, they collect their hire car. Once they're on the road, they discover that the sat-nav only speaks Italian. Why is everyone beeping their horns at us? Asked Peppa. I expect they are just saying hello, said Mummy Pig. Suddenly, Peppa remembers something very important. Teddy! I left Teddy on the airplane. Oh dear! A policeman on a motorbike pulls Daddy Pig over. Hello, officer, stutters Daddy Pig. Good day, the policeman replies, reaching into his bag. I am returning this young bear. Teddy! Cries Peppa. The next day, Mummy Pig suggests they do some sightseeing. Their new friend, Gabriella Goat, shows them her pretty village. Mummy Pig buys a lot of things to take home. They're going to need another suitcase. Gabriella's uncle shows Peppa and George how pizza is made. A little bit of tomato, a little bit of cheese, says Uncle Goat. Into the oven and into my tummy, says Peppa. I like pizza. What a lovely relaxing holiday, sighs Mummy Pig as Daddy Pig drives back to the holiday house. Oh dear, Daddy Pig has been pulled over again. Mr. Pig, says the policeman, reaching into his bag. You're Teddy. Teddy! Cries Peppa. After a few days, it is time for Peppa and her family to go home. Bye-bye, they call to Gabriella Goat and her family. What a lovely holiday, claims Daddy Pig. Yes, I have never felt so relaxed, sighs Mummy Pig. Oh dear, Daddy Pig has been pulled over by a policeman for a third time. Mr. Pig, please take better care of your Teddy, he says. Teddy! Cries Peppa, hugging her bear. We're going home today. Susie Sheep is waiting for Peppa when she gets home. It rained while you were away, Susie complains. Oh good, cries Peppa. Holidays are nice, but coming home to muddy puddles is even better. The end. Peppa Pig, Sun, Sea and Snow. Peppa and George are going on a coach trip to the seaside with Mummy and Daddy Pig.
Hooray!
Yippee, says Peppa. I'm going to build lots of sand castles.
Wow!
Then she looks out of the window. Oh no, a lot of snow has fallen overnight. Daddy Pig opens the door and goes out. A snowman comes back in. I'm cold, says the snowman. It's a talking snowman, gasps Peppa. It's Daddy Pig, Peppa, says Mummy Pig. There is so much snow, it has covered him. Everyone warms up Daddy Pig by rubbing him with towels. That's better, says Daddy Pig.
Now we can go to the seaside.
Cheers, Peppa. I don't think the coach will be running today, Peppa, says Mummy Pig, not with all this snow. Miss Rabbit's coach arrives at Peppa's house. How did you get through all that snow? Asked Mummy Pig.
My big snowplough pushes the snow out of the way, says Miss Rabbit. Next stop the seaside.
They set off for the seaside. On the way, they pass Mr. Bull and his team gritting the road. The grit melts the snow. The road is clear all the way to the seaside, says Mr. Bull.
Hooray!
Have a lovely day at the beach, says Mr. Bull. Peppa and her friends are very excited. They sing a happy seaside song.
We're all going on a seaside holiday. Sandcastle swimming and sunny skies. We're all going on a seaside holiday. Sea and sand and ice cream too.
The coach arrives at the seaside.
The beach is covered in snow,
says Peppa.
The sea looks cold,
says Miss Rabbit. I was looking forward to having a swim, says Mummy Pig, disappointed. Mummy Pig decides to go swimming in the sea anyway.
Is it cold, Mummy?
asks Peppa. It is a little bit cold, calls Mummy Pig back.
If you keep moving, you'll warm up,
says Mummy Sheep. I'll keep moving then, says Mummy Pig. Mummy Pig runs out of the sea again. Now it is Mummy Pig's turn to be warmed up. Peppa, George and Daddy Pig rub her with towels. That's better, says Mummy Pig.
It is too cold to go swimming and there's no sand to play with. What can we do now?
asked Peppa. Daddy Pig has a good idea too. We can't make sandcastles as the beach is covered in snow, but we can make snow castles, says Daddy Pig.
I love the seaside,
cries Susie Sheep.
And I love the snow,
adds Danny Dog.
I love the seaside and the snow, says Peppa.
Everyone loves the seaside and the snow. The end. Peppa Pig, Super Peppa. It was all about me week at playgroup. Now, children, began Madame Gazelle, I'd like you to start by each drawing a picture of yourself.
Ooh!
cried Peppa and her friends, grabbing the paints, crayons and glitter. When they'd finished, they put their pictures on the wall.
We look very important on the wall, said Peppa proudly.
You are very important, replied Madame Gazelle.
I'm a bit wonky,
said Susie Sheep, giggling. Next, Madame Gazelle asked the children to think about what they all like to do.
I like bouncing,
said Zoe Zebra, jumping up and down.
I like standing on one leg,
said Freddie Fox, trying to balance.
I like laughing,
said Candy Cat, rolling on the floor and giggling.
Meow.
Ow!
Ow.
I like howling really loudly,
howled Wendy Wolf. Lovely, said Madame Gazelle. You all like to do lots of different things. Now, think about what you are good at, said Madame Gazelle, and what you want to be when you grow up.
I'm good at being clever, said Edmund Elephant. I'm going to be an astronaut and an anthropologist. I'm very good at being brave, said Danny Dog. I'm going to be a champion skateboarder. Whoosh! I'm good at eating carrots, cried Rebecca Rabbit. I'm going to be a carrot. Next week, I'd like you all to come dressed as what you want to be when you grow up, said Madame Gazelle. Peppa put up her hand. But I don't know what I want to be, she sighed. How will I know what to dress up as? Don't worry, Peppa, said Madame Gazelle. You can dress as anything you like, even a carrot. Everyone giggled. But how do I choose? Asked Peppa. Why don't you talk to some grown-ups to see what they do? Suggested Madame Gazelle. They can help you decide. Okay, said Peppa. Just then the doorbell rang and it was time to go home. Goodbye, everyone, said Madame Gazelle. See you next week. Goodbye, Madame Gazelle, called the children. The next day, Peppa asked Mummy Pig about her work. I write my stories on the computer, explained Mummy Pig. When I think of an idea, I go like this. Mummy Pig wrote an amazing story and read it to Peppa. Wow, Mummy, I want to be a writer just like you, said Peppa. You write super stories. You can be a writer, Peppa, said Mummy Pig. Why don't you try writing a story now? But what if I can't think of a story? Asked Peppa. You have to believe you can, said Mummy Pig. But what if people don't like it? Asked Peppa. You have to believe they will, said Mummy Pig. Okay, said Peppa. And she told Mummy Pig a wonderful story about a princess, a frog, and a little prince. What a super story, said Mummy Pig. You see, Peppa, when you believe you can do something, it helps you to do it. After lunch, Daddy Pig took Peppa to his muddy puddle jumping competition. I hope you win, Daddy, Peppa whispered. I might, replied Daddy Pig. I am a bit of an expert. Daddy Pig leapt high up into the air and landed with a perfect splash. He won the golden cup, and the crowd cheered, Hooray for Daddy Pig! Wow, Daddy, I want to jump in competitions just like you, cried Peppa. You're a super muddy puddle jumper. Why don't you try jumping now, Peppa, said Daddy Pig. But I'm not an expert like you, replied Peppa. You can be an expert, said Daddy Pig. You just have to practice. Daddy Pig helped Peppa practice jumping. Then Peppa leapt high up into the air and made an enormous splash. The crowd were covered in mud, and they cheered and cheered. Hooray for Peppa! That was amazing. Thank you, Daddy, said Peppa. Next, Peppa went to see Miss Rabbit. I hope you're ready for a busy day, Peppa, Miss Rabbit cried. Peppa followed her as she zoomed from one job to the next. They raced from the supermarket to the fire station, on to the museum, and then to the theatre. After that, Miss Rabbit took some visitors for a helicopter ride and sold everyone some yummy ice creams. Wow, Miss Rabbit, I want to be just like you and do lots of things, said Peppa, as Miss Rabbit drove everyone home on the train. You're super at everything. If you work hard, you can be good at anything, said Miss Rabbit. Do I work hard? Asked Peppa. Yes, replied Miss Rabbit. You've been working hard with me all afternoon. You're super at everything, just like me. But when she got home, Peppa was confused. She still didn't know who to dress up as for playgroup. Mammy, Daddy and Miss Rabbit are super at everything, George. And I want to be just like them, but how can I dress up as everything? Super potato! Cheered George.
soaring his toy through the air. "That's it, George!" cried Peppa, having a clever idea. She headed straight to her dressing up box. The next day at playgroup, all the children were dressed up. "I see you've decided to be a superhero, Peppa," said Madame Gazelle. "I'm not a superhero," replied Peppa. "I am super." Mammy, Daddy and Miss Rabbit said, "If you believe in yourself, practice and work hard, you can be super at anything. And I do, so I'm Super Peppa." "Wonderful, Peppa," said Madame Gazelle. "I mean super. Super Peppa!" Everyone cheered, racing over to the dressing up box. When they came back, they were all wearing super costumes, just like Peppa. Mammy Pig, Daddy Pig and Miss Rabbit had helped Peppa to be super. And now Peppa had helped everyone else to be super too. "Super Peppa, super everyone!" announced Madame Gazelle, swishing her cape from side to side. "We are all super!" The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.